That's the question for Colour Maths, National 5 Maths 2025 last minute non-calculator paper, courtesy of Chris Smith, excellent maths teacher, does lots to promote maths throughout Scotland. And you can find this on my website. And if you want to sign up to his newsletter, the link will be in the description. Just a reminder that if you need some extra help with your maths, we're doing a last minute live stream exam prep on Tuesday the 13th of May at 8 PM for YouTube members only. You join now for £4.99. This video is sponsored by Lecky, and they are offering viewers of this channel 30% off of any of their books. All you have to do is use the code CLAREONMATHS, and the link to their books is down below. Now let's look at a couple of their books to highlight. We've got National 5 Maths and Higher Maths, and these are complete revision and practice. 2 books in one. We cover the whole course. Here's a random page, for instance, working simultaneous equations algebraically. You can see how good that book is and how clear it looks. But also at the end, practice exam papers that look exactly like the SQA exam papers that are published. Discount code CLAREONMATHS. Click the link to order now. National 5 Maths 2025 last minute question 1. Evaluate 2.5 minus 1 4/5 squared. Okay, so there's a few ways you can do this, but the first thing I'm going to do is do the 2.5 minus 1 4/5. So we've got 2.5. A lot of people would change that to a fraction and then take away, so I'll do it that way. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 halves minus 1 times 5 is 5 plus 4 is 9. 9 fifths. So common denominator, times them together to get 10. And then it's 5 fives is 25 minus 9 twos is 18. 25 minus 18 is 7, so that's 7 tenths. The other way you could have done that is just doing 2 take away 1 is 1, and then do a half minus 4/5, and then putting it together. But I've got 7 tenths, so now I need to do 7 tenths squared. So I square the top, 7 sevens is 49, and I square the bottom, 10 tenths is 100. Check that it's simplified. The only numbers that go to 49 are 1, 49, and 7, which don't go into 100, so I'm done there. Let's go in National 5 Maths 2025 last minute paper 1, question 2, expand and simplify. So we've got 2 sets of brackets, but we've not got 2 things and 2 things, so we can't use FOIL. So if you've no FOIL, that's not going to work. So you need to expand it in some way. Now I always use a grid for expanding brackets, so I'm going to keep doing that. So I'll just draw a box. On one side I write 4x squared minus 2x plus 3, and on the other side I write 2x plus 5, and then I just cut, and then cut, and then cut, and in the middle goes all my answers, which I'll just do in blue. 2x times 4x squared is 8x cubed. 2 twos is 4, and x is x squared, so it's minus 4x squared. 2 threes is 6, so it's 6x. And then we've got 5 times 4 is 20, x squared. 5 twos is 10, so minus 10x's. And 5 threes is 15, so plus 15. So now you should be able to see that this diagonal goes together and this diagonal goes together. So collecting my terms, I've got 8x cubed. 20x squared minus 4x squared is 16x squared, so that's positive. Minus 10x plus 6x is minus 4x, so minus 4x, and then plus 15 on the end, and we're done there. SQA National 5 Maths 2025 last minute paper 1 question 3. Given the vectors u is 3, 1, 4, and v is 1 minus 5, 3, find the modulus of the size of u plus v. So step 1, find u plus v. So that is 314 plus, bracket, 1 minus 5, 3. That gives me 4. 1 plus minus 5, 1 minus 5, minus 4. 3 plus 4 is 7. So there's my u plus v for step 1, and then I need to find the size of it. So that works just like Pythagoras. I square each of the numbers, then square root. So square root sign, 4 squared plus minus 4 squared plus 7 squared. And hopefully it'll give us one that we can square root, or we'll leave it as a simplified third. 4 fours is 16, and then another 16, and then a 49. So carefully adding these numbers up, I've got 49, 59, 65, 75, 81. Well, that's handy because the square root of 81 is 9. So we're done there. National 5 Maths 2025 last minute paper 1 question 4. You've got a graph y equals a sine bx. Write down the values of a and b. Well, let's check. If it's a sine bx, then it's going up to 7. It's going down to 7. So if there's 14 in between there, half of that is 7. I always do it that way in case there's a number adding on the end. And that way you always get your A correct. But in any case, it's going up and down to 7. So A equals 7. And then B, if it's a B then an X, it's how many graphs there are. 1, 2, up to 360. And you should notice something here already because I've noticed it myself. It is not 7. This is a trick question. It's actually -7 because it's been flipped. The normal graph goes that way and it's been flipped upside down. So watch out for that. Go back and change your answer. A is -7, B is 2, and we're done there. SQA National 5 Maths 2025 Last Minute Paper 1, Question 5. Solve 2p over 3 minus p plus 4 over 10 equals 3. So this is just a fraction work. You can either times by 3 then 10 or make a common denominator on a single fraction, which is what I'll probably do when I've got something like this. So 3 times 10 is 30. And then I'll just do 2p times 10. 2 tens is 20, so that's 20p minus 3 times this. So I'll just write 3p plus 4, and that still equals 3. So now we just need to expand our brackets and solve. 20p minus 3p minus 12 over 30 equals 3. 20 minus 3 is 18, 17p minus 12 over 30 equals 3. So we're dividing by 30, so we can just times both sides by 30 to get rid of that denominator. So that gives me 17p minus 12 equals 90. Add 12 to both sides because we're taking away. So we've got 17p equals 90, 100, 102. So p is 102 over 17. Now, we need to check, does that go into 102? Because if it does, we need to leave our answer as a whole number. So just a little bit of work on the side. 17, 34, that's 51 if I add another 17. 68. 78 becomes 85. 95 becomes 102. So yeah, it goes in exactly that many times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So P is actually equal to 6. And we're done there. National 5 Maths 2025 Last Minute Paper 1, Question 6. If f of x is x cubed plus 6, find f of minus 2. And then given t, find f of t equal to 33. So both types of functions questions in one. We'll do the first one first. F of minus 2 means every time you see an x, replace it with the minus 2, whatever's in that little bracket. So x minus 2 cubed plus 6, the whole of minus 2 cubed. So minus 2 cubed, well that's minus 2 times minus 2 is minus 4, times minus 2 is minus 8, plus 6. Minus 8 add 6 is minus 2. So we're done there. Part B, given t, find f of t equal to 33. So again, it's still the same job here. Every time you see an x, you replace it with a t. But this time the whole thing equals 33. So our x was x cubed plus 6. So it's now t cubed plus 6 equals 33. Need to try and solve that. So I'll just take 6 over. Taking away 6 for both sides, you get 27. So that means that t is the cube root of 27. So a number which times by itself and times by itself again is 27 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 is 27. So the answer is 3, and we're done there. SQA National 5 Maths 2025 Last Minute Paper 1, Question 7. Find the arc length, take pi as 3.14 because we're in a non-calculator paper here, so we can't use the pi button. So to find the arc length, the angle is 120 and the radius is 900. So our angle, which I usually call theta, is 120 degrees. Our radius is 900. And to find arc length, remember it's angle over 360 times pi times the diameter. So I need a diameter, which is double the radius, so that's 1800. So now we can work it out. Arc length is 120 over 360. Pi was 3.14 and 1800. My tips for a non-calculator question like this, where you're using something like pi, is do everything without the pi first and then just times by the pi at the end. It usually makes it easier. So I'm going to simplify the fraction first. they cancel the zeros. So it's 12 out of 36, 12, 24, 36 is a third, times 3.14 times 1800. But because you're timesing everything together, the order doesn't matter. So I'll do a third of 1800. If you need to at the side, you can do 1800 divided by 3. 3 sixes is 18, so that's 600. So that's just 600 times 3.14. Or we can break that down further. I can just times by 100 and have 6 left over to get 314. So I need to do 314 times 6. Again, anytime you want, use a little method. I'm using the column method here. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 ones is 6, 7, 8. And 6 threes is 18. So you get 1884. And the units for arc length, centimetres. So we're on centimetres again. And we're done there. Basically, National 5 Maths Last Minute, 2025, Paper 1, Question 8. Simplify fully. I've got an algebraic fraction here. We have to simplify that. You factorise the top, factorise the bottom, and then try and simplify. So factorising the top. So we've got 2c squared minus 18. Common factor, 2. Nothing else is common. So that gives me c squared minus 9. But then you check if you've still got a c squared, is it going to double brackets? Well, this is the difference of two squares. So that's 2c minus 3c plus 3. So I've done the top. Now the bottom. Bottom was c squared plus 7c plus 12. So I'll just put that there. So that's no common factor, so double brackets. C and C. Two numbers at times to make 12, but add to make 7 is 3 and 4. And it'll be both plus because it's plus 7. So now you should see I've got the same bracket on the top and the bottom. So they can just cancel, bye-bye. And that leaves me with 2c minus 3 on the top and c plus 4 on the bottom. Now you can't do the 2 into the 4 because the c is in the way with a plus. And you can't cancel c's because, again, there's other things in the way. So you're done there. Stop. A-Square National 5 Maths Last Minute, 2025, Paper 1, Question 9. Okay, we've got a picture of a watch. It says it's 20% off the price of a luxury watch. What was the price before the sale? So if it's 20% off, that means that the new price is called 80%. So that's the first thing I write. 80% equals 1620. Now, if this was if this was a calculator question here, I'd change that 80% to a decimal and just divide by it because it's a reverse percentage. But I'm in a calculator paper here, so I need to try and do something a little bit easier for myself. So let me see if I can go down to 10%. Does 8 go into this number? Well, 8 into 16 is 2. I think it doesn't go in exactly, but it shouldn't be too hard. So I'll go down to 10%. Or you could divide by 8 if you want. So dividing by 8, 8 into 16 goes twice. We can do it on the side, actually. 8 into 2 doesn't go. 8 twos is 16. 4 left over, so add a point. 8 fives is 40. So we get 202.5. And now for 100% means we do times by 10 to get 2025. So the price is £2025, and we're done there. A-Square National 5 Maths Last Minute, 2025, Paper 1, Question 10. Find the gradient and y-intercept of the straight line with that equation. So remember, if you find the gradient, there's two things you could be doing. You could be given a couple of points and using the gradient formula, or you could be given an equation, you need to rearrange it. Remember, the standard equation is y equals mx plus c, where m is the gradient and c is where it cuts the y-axis. So you need to make it look like that. So you need to have a y on its own. So I've got 2y plus 5 equals 4x. So if I move the 5 over, I'll have 4x take away 5. But I've still got 2y, and my normal equation's only got a y in it, so I need to divide by 2. So I divide both things by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2x, minus 5 over 2, which I'll just leave as 5 over 2 if you want. So now I know the gradient. The gradient, mx, is 2. And the y-intercept is, well, it's c, so it's minus 5 halves. If you're not sure of that one, just put x equal to 0 in if you want the y-intercept. 2 nothings is nothing, so you get minus 5 halves for y. So the y-intercept is when x is 0 and y is minus 5 over 2 as a coordinate, and we're done there. You could also leave that as a fraction to a decimal, so 5 divided by 2 is 2.5 to get minus 2.5 if you prefer. SQA National 5 Maths 2025 last minute paper 1 question 11. We've got a triangle with a 10 and a 6 and an angle in between. The value of cos B is an eighth, find B. So it's telling you the value of the whole of cos B. This is where a lot of people get confused. Like, how can I do the cosine rule without a calculator? Well, let's look at it. How do I know it's the cosine rule? Because I've got one side, two side, and I'm finding a third side. If you're finding a third side, it's the cosine rule. Or if you've got all three sides and you're finding an angle, it's the cosine rule. Otherwise, it's the sine rule. So let me copy the cosine rule. From the start of the exam paper, a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a is what you're told, but don't get hung up on the letters. We're not on A or on B, but we don't want to change things around. Always just remember, the two things you're adding make up the angle. The opposite side is what you're trying to find. So then 10 squared plus 6 squared. So 10 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times 10 times 6 times the cos of the angle that is opposite. So we're going to call that cos B. But remember, cos B, it says here, is equal to an eighth. So I don't need to write cos of anything. The whole thing's an eighth. Take that off, 1/8. And now we can start working on it. 10 squared is 100. 6 sixes is 36. 6 sixes is 36. 2 tens is 20 times 6 is 120 times an eighth. So 136. 120 out of 8. 8 ones is 8. 4 left over. 8 fives is 40. So that's 136, 131, 121. So that means that B, because it's called B in this question, is the square root of 121, which is 11. 11 times 11 is 121. So it's 11 centimetres. And we're done there. SQA National 5 Maths 2025 last minute paper 1, question 12. Multiply out and simplify, surds. So we're expanding brackets. So with a single bracket, you can use a grid, or if it's just a single bracket, you can just do it without a grid, which I'll probably do. Root 2 times root 6 is root 12. Root 2 times root 10 is plus root 20. And then we've got one more, root 2 times all the way over here, 3 root 2. So the 3 is still there because that's outside the root. And then it's times root 2 times root 2, which you might know is 2 straight away, or you can just write root 4. 2 twos is 4. Now we need to simplify all our surds. So let's do them separately in a list. Root 12, root 20, and root 4. Well, root 12, 2 square roots. For two numbers times to make 12, one's a square number. Well, that's 4 and 3. So that gives me 2 root 3. 20 is 4 times 5. So root 4 is 2, root 5. And root 4 is just 2. So our answer is root 12, 2 root 3, plus root 20, 2 root 5, plus 3 root 4s, 3 times 2. So finally that's 2 root 3. I can't add the 2 root 5 because it's different roots. And I can't add the 6. So I get this long answer, and I'm done there. SQA National 5 Maths last minute, 2025 paper 1, question 13. You're given a graph, and it says y equals kx squared. You're given a point, find the value of k. Good tip for any of these questions, whenever you're given a point is always an x value and a y value. So if you've got an equation, you can sub in the x and sub in the y. So I've got y equals kx squared, but I know that x is minus 3, and I know that y is 45. So I can just sub that in. 45y is y equals k minus 3 all squared. That's 45 equals, well, minus 3 is 9, 9k. And 9 fives is 45, so k is just 5. And we're done there. SQA National 5 Maths last minute 2025 paper 1 question 14. Change the subject of the formula to t. So I need to isolate t. So it's stuck with w, so I can't do anything with that, but it's got minus q, so I can add q to both sides. Don't be square rooting first or anything like that. End for that, unless it's already under a square root sign, then you square first, but it's not under it. So I've got v plus q equals wt squared. So it's stuck next to that w, so I can divide by the w. That equals t squared. And now I can square root, because the opposite of squared is squared root. So square root of v plus q over w equals t, or if you prefer, t equals the square root of v plus q over w, and we're done there. Doing National 5 Maths last minute, 2025 paper 1 question 15. So we've got this diagram here, vectors, and it tells us that AE is 3CD, DE is 2BA, find B to C in terms of U and V. So let's see if we can actually annotate our diagram to see what this is telling us. A to E is this one, and that is free of this one. So in other words, along here is free U. What else do we know? Well, we know DE is 2BA. So that is double that, which means that this one is half of that one. So that's a half V. And now I need to find a root from B to C using only things I know. So I can't go that way because I don't know how to do it there. So I just go round the other way. I'm going to go that way, that way, that way, and that way, and I end back up at C. So that'll be the answer. So B to C. I'm going the opposite direction first of all, along here. So that's minus a half V. And then I'm going that way, which is the same direction, so plus 3u. Then I'm going that way, which is the same direction, so plus v. And then I'm going that way, which is the opposite direction, so minus u. Collecting the terms, we've got v minus a half v. 1 minus a half is just a half, so that's a half v. And then we've got 3u minus 2u, which is, 3u minus u, which is 2u. So it's minus a half v plus 2u. So it's a half v plus 2u. SQA National 5 Maths last minute 2025 paper 1 question 16. Rationalise the denominator. So rationalise the denominator means times by the denominator over itself. Just the root part, you don't need to do the 3. So we just times by root 5 over root 5 to start with. So on the top, that gives 10 root 5. On the bottom, the 3 is still there, so it's times by root 5 times root 5 is just 5. And now we can say that that's 10 root 5 over 15. Now, these are both outside of a root, so they can be simplified together, but the 5 can't be simplified of anything because there's no other roots. So I divide the top by 5 and the bottom by 5, just the number parts to get 2. The root 5 stays where it is. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 2 root 5 over 3. And we're done there. National 5 Maths 2025 last minute paper 1 question 17. Each graph below shows a parabola y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And we have to ask some questions on these graphs. So we're checking if we understand the connection between a graph and an equation. So part A says a is greater than 0. What does that actually mean? Well, a is the number in front of x squared. So that means that the x squared part's positive, which means the shape we're looking for is that and only that. So we've got 1, but also 4 goes like that. So the graphs are I and IV. The other 2 are upside down, so that means that A would be negative instead of positive. Question B, for which graphs is b squared minus 4ac less than 0? Well, that's called the discriminant, remember, and that if it's less than 0, it's got no real roots. Now, what's a root is what it's basically asking here. A root is where it cuts the x-axis. So there's roots on that one, so that's got real roots. There's roots on this one, so that's got real roots. But on this graph here, it doesn't cut the x-axis, so it's not got any roots, no real roots anyway. And on this one, it's not got any roots, well, none that are real anyway. You'll learn about unreal ones much later on in life. But for now, no real roots would be 2 and 4. Because it doesn't cut the x-axis. And we're done there. SQA National 5 Maths 2025 last minute paper 1 question 18. evaluate 8 to the power of minus 2/3. So a little bit of index work with a fraction. So first of all, if I need to work something out, that's what evaluate means. I need to get ready to work on it. So I can't have a negative power because I can't work with that. So that becomes 2/3, 1 over 2/3 in the power position. And basically, do we know what that means? Well, it always means a fractional power, a root of some description. So I'm going to put my 8 there. And then how do I know what type of root? Well, the denominator is the type. So 3 means the cube root, 2 would be the square root, 4 would be the fourth root. And then what happens to that 2? Well, it just stays with the 8 squared. So that's where I am at. So that's 1 over. Now I'll do the cube root bit first, because I don't want to do 8 squared and have to cube root it. Doesn't matter the order, you see. Cube root of 8 is 2. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So that's 2, and it's still squared. 1 over 2 squared is 4, because that's a quarter. 2 2s is 4. And we're done there. SQA National 5 Maths 2025 last minute paper 1 question 19. Show that sine cubed x plus sine x cos squared x equals sine x. A trig identity. It's 2 trig identities you need to know to be able to work with this. The first one is sine x over cos x equals tan x. And the other one is sine squared x plus cos squared x equals 1. Now, in this question, there's clearly no tans turning up anywhere, so I'm probably not using that. So I am going to be using this one. Factorising is key with this a lot of the time. And what you do is you work on the left-hand side, you leave the right-hand side alone, don't touch it, until you can make it look like the right-hand side in some way. So let's see what I've got. Sine cubed x plus sine x cos squared x. So the first thing I'm going to check in my tool bag is, can I factorise that? Well, sine x is a common factor. So I'll take that out. That leaves sine squared x here. And then that leaves in the second place, I've already got a sine x cos squared x. Oh, well, that's handy because that's my trig identity. That equals 1. So I can just write that equals sine x times 1, which is sine x. And we're done there. It's been Clearly Maths, and today we've done the last minute National 5 Maths 2025 paper 1, courtesy of Chris Smith. Hopefully you found that useful. If you did, just give us a like. And remember, consider joining the channel for the last minute members only live stream the night before the exam. Take care, stay safe, and goodbye.